Okay, so Rick, welcome here, and I'm really happy that you accepted to participate to this podcast with us. And I'd like to ask you to start the conversation, starting with your beginning. I mean, if you can tell us the beginning of your professional story music business. I don't know, you were inside the Californian surf scene, you studied film, and how did you move to music business? I mean, when did it happen?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. This is really exciting. I know we've been talking about this for quite a while.
Yeah.
Cool. Talking about my career, with someone in Italy. Never thought this would happen. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No, I thank to you. You know that. I already wrote you a lot of times.
Roberto.
And I'm so happy that you're here. You know that, I'm sure.
Yeah, no. And yeah, so basically I started my career. I was basically in high school and I'm a surfer, and I started the surf club at my school, and I knew nothing about music, knew nothing of anything like that. I just knew I was totally into surfing and I wanted to start something. So I started the surf club and became the president of that surf club. And we held a fundraiser, and the fundraiser was a noontime concert. And I got a hold of one of my buddies who was in a band, and we had the band play, and they were called the Czechs. And this was like literally in like 1984. It was like in the peak of the 80s. MTV was raging. It was like such a fun time to live. And we had this band play. They all dressed up in white shirts and ties. They were kind of like a ska mod band. And this slam pit broke out. And I was like, what is that? Like, it freaked me out. And this huge slam pit was going on in my school auditorium. And the show got shut down. The principal came in and just thought we were crazy. I thought that was like the best thing I've ever seen in my life. This band, all my friends running at each other. And right about that point, I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. I want to put on more shows. And that was my very first music experience. And that was the first thing I did. And I still have the ticket stub for that, actually, somewhere in my house. But
okay,
that was my first time. And yeah, and then it kind of led to other things, yeah. So that was how I started.
Okay, and after that, I mean, you started promoting biggest band in like surf events. Tell me that I'm correct or not. Like,
yeah.
So if you can tell us something a little bit about it, about the movie with Taylor Steele and that kind of period.
Yeah. So to answer your question, once I realized that I liked putting on shows, I was saying, I hung out in Malibu, and that was where I hung out. I mean, it was the world famous Malibu beach. I mean, that's where we were. We surfed every single day. I mean, where there's like 50 of us on the beach, and we would all listen to music. And then we started going to shows, and we were really into the mod scene. Like the Specials and Madness were like a big deal to me. And I was just freaking on those bands. The Untouchables, I was very into that scene. Being a surfer, I loved all that stuff. And I discovered some of that music, especially the band The Untouchables, from a surf movie called Beyond Blazing Boards. It was by a surf director named Chris Bystrom. And Beyond Blazing Boards was, back in the day, it was on VHS, and we would watch this movie over and over and over again. And the soundtrack was this band called The Untouchables. And we went and saw, and I hung out with them about 4 months ago. And this is a band that I used to go see when I was 17 years old in the 80s. And I just became really intrigued and excited about going to these shows. So I would learn music by watching surf movies. And then I would go see the bands play, and I would get chicken skin all up and down my arms. Like, oh my gosh, I go to the show. I know every song because I learned it off of a surf movie. No joke. That's how a lot of us learned about music, was, you know, from surf movies. So fast forward to 1992, 90, in the early 90s, I started putting on shows called Big Dummy Jams. And that's what my Instagram is, Big Dummy Jam.
Yeah.
And the shows basically were, I would find a venue that would allow me to premiere a surf movie. And I would find bands that were local bands from my area in the LA area. Some of them were ska bands, some of them were hip hop guys. It was kind of like a little mini, like Lollapalooza was just starting. So I was like, that's so cool. You can go to Lollapalooza and you can see Jane's Addiction. You can see Rage Against the Machine. You can see Tool. You can see all these different kind of bands. Well, obviously I didn't have those connections. So I got like Horny Toad and Coup d'etat and like bands, you know, they don't even exist anymore, but they were popular in the beach area. There were local bands that were popular that were drawing like 100 or 200 kids. So what I would go to these bands and say, listen, I have a surf movie. So I would get hold of like Quicksilver or Billabong. I think Quicksilver at the time was the one. And they had a surf movie they were putting out and they wanted to promote their movie. So I said, hey, I'll take your surf movie. Give me a bunch of prizes, Quicksilver prizes, like board shorts and t-shirts and things like that. I'd go to like every surf company I knew because I was a surfer. I surf Malibu every day. I knew all the surf shops. I'd sell tickets at the surf shops. I'd get all these free prizes. And we would basically go into Hollywood, which was weird because no one did this. Usually shows in Hollywood were freaks and Hollywood people and city people. I mean, you can listen to some podcasts of Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction and they'll talk what the scene was like at the Roxy, the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Troubadour, the famous clubs in Hollywood. Those were the kind of people that were going to these shows. I brought Malibu into Hollywood.
Okay.
And I'm not talking Gidget and freaking, you know, I'm not talking the Gidget movies. I'm talking like I had 450 people would show up in the Whiskey A Go-Go in Hollywood, park their cars outside, boards still on top of their cars. I brought the beach to the Whiskey. And I would show a surf movie in the famous Whiskey A Go-Go and have these bands play. We would give away surfboards. We did raffles. I was the MC. I actually, oh, hold on. I MC'd part of it, but I ended up hiring Angelo from Fishbone. I'd pay him $500 to MC my Big Dummy Jams. This was like in literally 92, 93. Angelo Moore from Fishbone. And Fishbone was very popular at that time. They had a big hit, Party at Ground Zero. Like they were like, that's who we all would go see. Those kind of bands, Fishbone, Untouchables and stuff. But Angelo would MC my shows. We would give out all these surfboards. We'd make people do crazy things on stage. Like it was just like a big raging beach party in Hollywood. And the owner of the club, his name was Sean, they owned the Whiskey and the Roxy. He loved it because my crowd all showed up. My crowd they weren't there to fight. My crowd was happy surfers. And he always let me go back in there and rent the Whiskey. And then I worked my way up from getting kind of a crappy night to where he'd give me like a Friday or Saturday night because he knew I'd pull.
Okay.
I was totally different than the rest of the promoters. At that time, Golden Voice controlled Hollywood and LA. Golden Voice owned the promoting scene. And so I just started creating these events based off my passion for the sport of surfing, and now my love for music. And as these events, I started doing more and more. I did surf movies, like just random surf movies and things like that. I premiered some surf movie, snowboard movie in Alaska. Anywhere I wanted to go, I would get hold of somebody in the surf industry or snow industry, tell them what I wanted to do, and they'd throw money at me to do it. Because back then, the surf in the early 90s, the surf and snow industry was booming, like booming. So they were throwing money and product at me left and right. I'm like, hey, I want to go to Hawaii. And I would put a show together to get to Hawaii. So eventually I moved to San Diego to go to school at SDSU down. I lived in Mission Beach. I got a phone call from a big promoter in San Diego. His name is Bill Silva. He promotes like the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as I worked my way up as a promoter, I built relationships with some bands that you've probably heard of.
Yeah, of course.
NOFX,
Yeah.
Sublime, No Doubt. And at the time, the biggest one I had was called the Offspring. Now, the Offspring played my big dummy jams at the Whiskey. I paid him $500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they thought it was super cool to like come in. They're Offsprings from Huntington Beach. They thought it was super cool that some surfer guys are promoting the Offspring out of Huntington Beach and in Hollywood. They didn't really play Hollywood that much. So, but it wasn't really to a Hollywood crowd. It was really to like the Malibu crowd. And it was just a different crowd. So I became friends with the bands on Epitaph. Epitaph was a big deal in the early 90s. It was a big deal. Brett Gurewitz and Jeff Abarta, who ran marketing at Epitaph, had a connection with me. He thought it was really cool that I did shows in LA. Then I moved to San Diego, and then I started doing shows in San Diego. So then I get a call from this Bill Silva. He's a huge promoter in San Diego, the biggest. And he goes, hey, will you come take a meeting with me? And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is crazy. Like, how did I get on his radar? Well, it turns out the Offspring wrote a song, Keep Them Separated. You know that song? You gotta keep them separated.
Yeah, of course.
The biggest song of their career. And the Offspring stayed with me and as a promoter. So I'm like taking the ride with this band. Like I'm going up with this band as a promoter. So I'm like putting together really cool shows in clubs that like I would go drive around San Diego and find a room. Like there's an abandoned movie theater. Oh, I'll pay this guy $300 and he'll let me rent it out and I'll put on a NOFX show. It would go nuts. It would go absolutely crazy. But I did that with a lot of bands. I did Rancid shows. I promoted punk rock shows. And I usually had something attached to it. I didn't do a show every weekend. When a big dummy jam happened, it was like once every 3 months or 2 months.
Okay. I thought
okay.
Okay. I thought it was more. Okay.
Like I said, this is over a span of like maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
You know, that I was doing all this stuff. But I just would do, because I never bit off more than I can chew. I would do a show and I always made sure it would sell out. Right? And all my shows had prizes. We would throw wetsuits and everything. You just always knew at a big dummy jam, you're going to get good punk rock, a surf or skate movie or a snowboard movie premiere, pro athletes there. You know, maybe Kelly Slater will show up. Kelly Slater might show up, which he did on some occasions. So it became a thing. Like a big dummy jam became a thing, and it was really, really cool. So I get the call from Bill Silva. He offers me a job. So I accept the job because someone actually wanted to pay me to do what I love to do, which was weird.
Okay.
It's totally weird. I would take the money and just fuel my passions of things of being a surfer. You know, I like fishing, I like surfing. And so that's what I would work for. So I accepted the job, and I asked him, like, why do you want me? You know, and it's like, he's like, yeah, straight up. He's like, we promote big bands that are doing well on the radio, and how, you know, you won't play for us. They mentioned you're their promoter, and who are you, and how did you get to be where you are? Like, how did you get to work with some of these bands that are being played on the radio and stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. I created these bands. I brought the surf scene into the punk rock scene at that time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So here I am. I've got this job offer. It's really cool, but I had one thing starting to go for me. I picked up a band agreed to manage that reached out to me called Unwritten Law.
Yep.
Are you there? Yeah. And so I started managing my first band named Unwritten Law. And so after I started working with Unwritten Law, I was out on the beach one morning in Mission Beach, where I lived, and I believe I already agreed to work for Bill Silva at this time. And I'm down there on the beach, and I look out and I see these guys surfing, and these were not your normal surfers. I knew the guys who lived on my beach. We were not that good. These guys were really, really good. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. And there was a jetty that went out. And I'm like over here, and the jetty's going out over here. And I'm looking at the surfers surfing against, like, wait, I wonder if they're getting filmed by that famous surf film director, Taylor Steele. And I look, and I see a guy's silhouette with a long camera lens filming. I'm like, I bet you that's Taylor Steele. And Taylor Steele put out a movie called Momentum, and he just changed surfing. Like, he introduced Kelly Slater and Rob Machado and a lot of the guys that are legends today. And his soundtrack was basically an Epitaph soundtrack. Brett Gurewitz gave him the music, gave him Bad Religion, gave him Pennywise for free to put in his songs. And I knew this movie because I'd been watching it over every morning before I'd surf. I'd watch Momentum over and over and over again. Every song, every move that these guys made. No different than I was doing literally 10 years prior to that movie Beyond Blazing Boards. And I run down there to the jetty. I introduce myself and I go, "Are you Taylor Steele?" He said, "Yes." I'm freaking out. He's filming like some of the best surfers in the world out there, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, I put on these shows called the Big Dummy Jam. I get these bands that I've been working with. I love the bands you put in." I go, "Let me produce some tours for you. Let me do some stuff, and let's take your next movie," which he was filming for Momentum 2, "and let's promote it. Let's do something." He loved the idea. He and I clicked immediately. And next thing I know, I put together some shows in Encinitas, California at the La Paloma Theater, 2 nights of Pennywise and the Momentum 2 movie. And every pro surfer known to mankind came to this thing. It was crazy and it was historic. And still to this day, I've had people paddle out to me in the water going, "Man, when I was a kid, that was the best night of my life." And those were our shows. They were crazy. People were climbing walls to get in. Pennywise was so popular with the surfers. They were, I paid them like $800. I mean, I don't know, like it was so cool, man. It was just like, okay, now I'm promoting Pennywise. I promoted NOFX. I've promoted Rancid, the Offspring. Correct, yeah. So at this point, I promoted all these bands. Like over this period of time, from my very first lunchtime show, I now was the promoter on record for Rancid and NOFX and Pennywise and Offspring. At the exact same time, Epitaph was boiling because Offspring had huge hits. I couldn't have asked for a more perfect time. So I'm working at Bill Silva. I've already put tours together with these bands and these surf movies. My relationship with Taylor Steele is great. My band, The Unwritten Law, had just did dates with Rancid. I'm now getting paid to work for a promoter, big time promoter. Man, I never would have dreamed I was in this position. And I remember I was at my desk. I was only working for Bill Silva for like literally 2 weeks. And she wasn't my assistant, but she was like the assistant. She's all, hey, Rick, there's someone here to see you. And I'm like, okay, who's that? He's all, his name is Tom. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, send him in. So this skinny kid walks into my office, his hat's backwards, and he's kind of real skinny and tall. And he goes, hey, what's up, dude? I'm Tom. I play in a band called Blink. And I'm like, hey, what's up, Tom? They're a local band. I mean, local. Like, they only have ever played the side stage at Soma, which is the club, the famous club in San Diego. Soma, still around to this day. I have my bands playing there in April.
Okay.
And so I go, hey, Tom, and he goes, yeah, I'm in this band, and I mean, it's a melodic pop punk rock. And I'm like, cool, dude. I'm all, yeah, I've heard of you. I've heard of Blink, like they played shows in San Diego. And he's like, dude, you promote the best shows. Like, your shows are legendary. Like, and he was like, I remember we were talking, I did a show in Tijuana that was so legendary. Oh my gosh. It was crazy. Punk rock show in Tijuana. It was nuts. And I remember talking to him about these shows, and he goes, we need a manager. And he's like, would you manage us? And I'm like, all right, wait, you're a 3-piece, right? He's all, yeah, I'm a 3-piece. He's all, I'm a truck driver right now. I haul concrete. And he's all, but dude, we'd be really stoked if you managed us. I'm like, huh. I'm like, you seem pretty cool. I'm like, sure, I'll manage you. Never even seen the band play in my life. Honest to God, that's the truth. So I said, yeah, I'll manage Blink. Cool, let's go. I had no idea, dude. No idea where it would have taken me. I mean, I was already blown away that I was making $25,000 a year and getting to go to shows and having like what seemed like kind of an endless budget to put on punk rock shows. And it was crazy for the time I was there. And so I started managing Blink along with Unwritten Law. Those were my bands. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm a promoter with access to money and insurance. I'll just create my own shows. So I sold the name of my company to Bill Silva for $1, big dummy.
How old were you during that period?
25.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 53 right now.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, because Bill didn't want me, and neither did I, to put my shows under the name of Bill Silva Presents because it looked like a sellout move, So we were big dummy. My shows went from one every 3 months to, I was doing a show like every 3 weeks.
Okay.
It started becoming a job. It was different now versus the way I was doing it before. But I still loved to produce shows, build things out of scratch, create mini festivals, create my own things based off my passions and my connections with my friends in these surf companies, like Billabong, huge connections at Billabong. I mean, I was like this with Bob Hurley, who owned Billabong, who went on to start Hurley. Okay. And I'm sure you've seen Blink wearing Hurley. Yeah. So this was all these things, all these setups were organic, and they all came from my brain, fueled by my passion for being a surfer, dude. That's it. I swear. That's exactly what it was. And my love for mod music with the specials and all that stuff led me to promote shows like I mentioned you with Fishbones and those kind of things, and got me to this point. Now I'm 25 years old. I'm managing 2 bands, Unwritten Law and Blink. I'm working for Bill Silva, who literally promoted those years, the Rolling Stones and Guns N' Roses at like where the Padres played in the stadium, or the San Diego Chargers at the time. I mean, huge shows. And I'm promoting all these club shows with these bands. But I would start creating things. So I had access now to all of these bands. They would call me up and be like, hey, Rick, No Doubt's coming to town. They want to play San Diego. And I'm like, hey, I'll do that. And I'll put on a local band that I know will sell tickets. I have this band called Blink. Like, they're killer. Like, all right, cool. Let's put No Doubt and Blink together. And you know anyone else? I'm like, yeah, I got Unwritten Law too. I did that all the time.
Okay.
So, but here's what else I did. So not only did I was promoting shows in LA and San Diego, I produced tours in Florida. I would go to Florida with Unwritten Law and Blink and just do Florida tour and only tour in Florida. Now you ask me, why would you do that? Well, I would do that because there's surf in Florida.
Okay. So I mean, your tours were in that period. I mean, there's a surf scene, so I'll put my tour there. That's the idea. That's the idea.
Because I would use my bands to get me to be able to get a free ticket out to Florida so I can go surf Sebastian Inlet with Kelly Slater, or get over to Hawaii and go surf the North Shore with Rob Machado and all the boys. But we all were bros. We all were, because we were all linked to Taylor Steele. Taylor Steele was linked to Epitaph. I was linked to Epitaph because I helped put shows on and produce shows for Epitaph. I produced the Epitaph Summer Nationals. I was a producer of that. This was, I don't know, I did this in like 93, 94. I had every single Epitaph band 3 nights at the Hollywood Palladium. And I coordinated and produced it, but it was promoted by Golden Voice. So now I'm like managing bands. I'm producing shows that are being paid for by other promoters. I have the surf scene in my pocket. Dude, I'm in a pretty good position here all of a sudden. Like, and I didn't even, it just happened. You couldn't have, it just happened because of passion, right? So we took Blink and Pennywise. I'm like, now I want to go international. I go, let's take Taylor Steele's movie, forget Hawaii, forget Florida, let's go to Australia. All right.
Yeah.
So I convinced Andy Summers, who's Pennywise's booking agent, who believed in me from day one. He allowed me to produce these shows with Pennywise and do them all around the country in the surf areas and stuff like that. He was totally into me, and it was really cool. And so I got Pennywise to agree to allow me to produce the tour in Australia and to take Blink. Blink was signed to Cargo Records in San Diego. So Cargo did a licensing deal with a company called Mushroom Records in Australia. So nobody was playing Blink on the radio at this time, with the exception of one guy, Mike Halloran at 91X in San Diego. He was like starting to, really, he would start playing it, but it wasn't connecting yet. It was like very early days. But I got Blink to open up for Pennywise in Australia in front of thousands of surfers. It was the surf movie. It was the cast of the surf movie. We had, pro surfers with us, Pennywise, and this new fun trio, Blink from America. Dude, it was like knocking pins down. These fans just ate up Blink. Blink was in the soundtrack of the movie. Pennywise endorsed Blink. The surfers endorsed Blink. They were getting popular in Australia. Blink broke first in Australia. First place in the whole world. It came out of Australia. America can say they broke it. UK can say they broke it. It came straight out of the surf scene out of Australia with 100%. So we have the Australians to thank for Blink-182 and the surfers.
Just let me say something, that we are talking about Blink-182, and in this period there isn't Travis, but there's Scott, right? I mean,
yeah,
we are talking
really
at the beginning.
Yes, they were Blink, but somewhere in there, we had to go to Blink-182. Scott was in the band. Travis was nowhere near this yet. Blink was. We go over and do this tour. I think we were Blink. We might have been Blink-182. I can't remember. We got sued by an Irish techno band called Blink, and we had to add the 182.
Okay.
That was new to me. I was like, what? Irish techno band named Blink? It was so dumb. So somewhere along the lines, we had to add the 182. So we come back from Australia, and the promoters are calling, going, oh my gosh, these kids want you back. So we get hold of Mushroom Records. They get their radio department to pitch to Triple J Radio in Australia. Song goes on fire, the song called M&M's. Takes off in Australia. Same time, Mike Halloran is now playing M&M's in San Diego. Blink goes back to Australia, and we literally sold out every club we played. Second time, it was insane, dude. It was insane. I just couldn't believe it. Now, back in the States, because I was a promoter, I decided that I wanted to grow my reach. I didn't want to just do LA in San Diego. I wanted LA, I wanted San Diego, I wanted Las Vegas, and I wanted Phoenix. Because Bill Silva had flags in Las Vegas and Phoenix. And I go, hey, well, if this can work here, do you think I could do my big dummy shows there using your connections at your venues with your promoters? Like, yeah, do it. So, dude, I started promoting shows in Las Vegas at the Huntridge Theater, which eventually the roof caved in and almost killed everybody. But, I was still playing crappy rooms. But I got in with Phoenix. I got in with Las Vegas. I got in with Santa Barbara, LA, or Santa Barbara, Ventura, LA, Orange County, which was like Huntington Beach, Newport, San Clemente, San Diego, Phoenix, Las Vegas. I took Blink from playing shows, only shows in San Diego, within a short time. They had played shows on the other side of the world. They had played shows in all those states I just said. I produced those Florida dates. It was insane. I did a good job. I followed the waves. Wherever the waves were, with the exception of Vegas and Phoenix, no waves. That's inland, Arizona and stuff. We just sold the lifestyle out there. So instead, we would maybe take a skateboard movie, and bring it to Arizona, or a skate movie, and we put the bands in that, you know?
Yeah.
I do want to say one key thing that helped me a lot to get Tom to come to me and stuff was Pennywise was a big deal. I was promoting Pennywise. Some of these other bands were a big deal, but the one guy that gave me a chance that made me actually super legit was Fat Mike.
Okay.
Because NOFX was precious. Like, they were the mighty, like, NOFX, they're kings. Like, now Bad Religion was a big deal too. But NOFX, man, oh my gosh. Like, those shows were crazy. They sell out every single time. Like, no questions asked. They were big. NOFX is big. And Fat Mike let me promote San Diego because Soma closed down. And this was before I met Tom. Soma closed down, and Epitaph vouched for me. And Fat Mike, I remember, he's like, yeah, you sound cool, dude. Like, rad, all right, let's go. You know, I mean, that's how I got these things. So when I was able to promote, and I still have the flyer, a NOFX show that had Big Dummy on it, now I had everybody, dude. I had, you know, every big punk rock band. I had so much momentum. I was trying to get Operation Ivy back together. I was like, I want Op Ivy. I want, you know, no way that was going to happen though. But I mean, that's where I was thinking. I was trying to think out of the box and do things like that. But so once I got NOFX's and stuff like that, then Tom came, and Pennywise agent believed in me, and all these bands believed in me because I married surf, skate, snow with punk rock.
Yes.
I remember one day I was managing Blink, Unwritten Law. I had already been doing a lot of stuff. And I kept telling, you know, Bill Silva, I'm like, yeah, punk's getting big. It's getting big. And then one day, the new Rolling Stone magazine dropped on my desk, and on the cover of Rolling Stone was Green Day. I grabbed that magazine, ran it into his room, and I go, I told you so. And he's like, oh my gosh, Green Day's on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. This was a big deal. Rolling Stone magazine still mattered. MTV still mattered. No, I don't know if that stuff really matters at all anymore, but it did at the time. So now, okay, there's Green Day at the top. Blink is tiny. Here's Green Day. Now it's time to get to work. So now I'm a promoter with power and connections because I'm backed by Bill Silva. I'm buying shows from big bands. I know a lot of agents because I'm buying shows. I'm helping them scratch their back. I'm like, hey, can Blink go on tour with your band? Hey, Sublime, can I put Blink on these days? Hey, you know, Unwritten Law, can I get Unwritten Law on these days? And I would put my bands using my job and my connections, and I would still create my own things. And we started building up a scene, dude. It was really sick. So a ways into that Bill Silva job, I started burning out. I was being forced to promote shows that I didn't like at the time. There was this band called Radiohead.
Okay.
I wasn't into it. And that show failed. It didn't do well. It didn't do well in San Diego.
Oh.
It didn't do good. We lost money. But I had to do it because now I was elevated. I had to take the calls from the agent at CAA. You got to do this. And I'm like, dude, I like punk shows, and I really just want to do one a month. And, you know, like it wasn't as special to me anymore producing shows. but I still loved managing the bands and promoting Blink and Unwritten Law. So I decided to quit. It just wasn't fun anymore. I was also having, I was getting stressed. I was in these clubs that were filled with smoke. I don't smoke cigarettes. I wasn't liking it that much anymore. So I got it. My friend Paul Gomez, who was running Billabong, got me a job at Arnett Sunglasses. Arnett was a big surf brand in the 90s as the team manager there. So I got to manage pro surfers. None of my bands, Blink and Unwritten Law, they were club acts. They were openers. They were opening acts, getting paid $250 a night. So it wasn't like, but it was, I was getting a place, but it wasn't like I was making a ton of money. So I decided to quit my job at Bill Silva, to go work, to be the team manager at Arnett Sunglasses. And I only had to work 3 days a week. Okay. Where Bill Silva, I had to work like sometimes 6 days a week. And I had to be in an office from 9 to 5. And then after that 5, I have to go to a show till midnight. And I was tired. It was like burning me out. I wasn't surfing as much. My passion flame was kind of going down, right? So I took this job at Arnett, and I told Unwritten Law and Blink, I go, look, I'm down to still manage you, but I'm doing this. Well, Unwritten Law signed a management agreement with Bill Silva under my, I was the day-to-day, and Blink hadn't signed it for some reason. I don't know why. I can't remember what happened, but Unwritten Law couldn't go with me. And Blink said, dude, we're going with you. Because everything we've had was you. You dreamt this all up. Mark used to say, DeVoe delivers, DeVoe delivers. It was like my thing, and it was just because I was just passionate about stuff, dude. I mean, I loved getting boxes of wetsuits and free surf gear and stuff. It was like the raddest dream of my life. And so I'm like, wait, seriously? We're coming with you, dude. You're our guy. So I'm like, all right, well, I got to work at Arnett 3 days a week. And the other 2 I'll dedicate to you 100%. And then whatever I had on the weekend. So we did it. Unwritten Law stayed with Bill. I was sad, but it's just life. I can't control everything. And here I go. Now I'm just managing Blink-182 on my own. I'm the team manager at Arnett. And I'm back now into my roots. I'm now the team manager of the late, great Andy Irons, who passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, 3-time world champ. I was his team manager. I'm like, I'm on a trip today here in Mexico with a kid at the time named Timmy Curran. And Timmy made it to 6 on the world tour. Timmy is still my homie today. Him and his family are in my house right now, down in Mexico on vacation. I met Timmy when he was 15 years old, doing a surf movie before I met Tom when he was 15, and Timmy's 44 here today in my house. These are the kind of connections and amazing people I met along my journey to this day. Kind of a fun note there. So I'm managing Arnett, and dude, I had like endless money budget. They didn't care. Sunglasses. Do you know how powerful a pair of sunglasses are?
Yeah.
And when I have like endless amount to give people,
yeah,
and they were like the most popular sunglass brand at the time. Oh my gosh, dude. I would put together more tours with Taylor Steele, sponsored by Arnett and Billabong, funded by Arnett. Blink came along with me. I sponsored Blink. They were now the house band for Arnett, which was like this most insane sunglass company that was coming up. Once again, I just walked into the timing of their success before they sold to Bausch & Lomb. They were like so cool, dude. And we were playing, I started getting these events, like not just your regular punk rock shows, but like snowboard festivals in like at ski resorts. I picked up Sublime's agent for Blink, Rick Bondi. He started booking Blink. He was an all ska punk label. He had Sublime and Skank and Pickle and all these really cool bands at the time. Sublime blew up before Bradley died. So I'm just like, this is so fun again. I'm going to Florida Surf Expo. DeVoe, you want to put on a party? You've done all these shows. Go ahead, put on whatever party you want. I'm like, let's do a show at the wave pool in Orlando at Disney. Yeah, sick. Let's do it. Oh. Let's do it in the ballroom at the Orlando Convention Center or the San Diego Convention Center. Wherever the trade shows went, I always put on a big dummy show with Blink.
So all around the States.
No, the trade shows were mostly, they were in San Diego and Orlando.
Ah, okay,
that was the epicenter for surf.
Okay.
Now the snow trade shows happened in Las Vegas. I went to those because Arnett made goggles. So like I would use these like little things and their marketing budget to usher my band in. I remember the Arnett photographer, Eric Crane, amazing photographer. He did all the photography for Arnett. They had the coolest ads, dude, in Surfer Magazine and Surfing Magazine. They had the coolest ads. He agreed. I go, hey, dude, I just signed my band to MCA Records. Would you do a photo shoot for me? He's like, yeah, dude, totally. I hired the Arnett marketing photographer director guy to do Blink's first professional photo shoot for Dude Ranch.
Okay.
It was all shot at Universal Studios because MCA Records was located on the lot at Universal because MCA was owned by Universal. So we had access to Universal Studios. So I hired this photographer, Crano, raddest dude, man. He's such a good eye. He took the best photos of Blink, all dressed up in cowboy outfits, and they were legendary. The record was called Dude Ranch, and they had a song on there called Damn It, and Josie, and I think Josie was on. Man, I'm spacing. It's been so long. I think Josie was, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. Embarrassing. But, you know, we did these photos, and the label was like, dude, these images are insane. Who did these, you know? And I'm like, that's Crano. Crano went on to do amazing things. He started Electric Sunglasses, which is huge around the world. Like, he went on to do great things. So Damn It comes out, and that single drops. And we had already done a lot of club tours. We did every single surfing event. If the US Open of Surfing was happening in Huntington Beach, Blink was there. If there's a skateboarding event in San Diego at the YMCA skate park, Blink played it. Blink owned the action sports space. They were the band that was getting played everywhere. And we had a name for ourselves now in that space. We were becoming a big fish in a small pond. The Warped Tour picked us up. Kevin Lyman loved us. He loved us so much that he gave us 3 or 4 bus spots on his bus to let us go to Europe in the summer of '97 and play Europe on the Warped Tour with like the legends, Social Distortion, and I mean, dude, lucky, because I connected with Kevin Lyman on what I was doing in the surf scene, and my best compliment in my whole career, he told me, Rick, I based the Warped Tour off of your Big Dummy Jams. This is a huge compliment. That was the longest running festival in the US history. But instead of surfing, he went skateboarding and BMX. And he put it on a grander scale. And he toured it around the country. into places where surfing wouldn't work. He'd go into Chicago and Boston and, you know, Salt Lake City. Skateboarding and BMX were popular there. Tony Hawk, Danny Wag, those guys were blowing up. Jamie Thomas, skateboard scene was flourishing in the 90s. The shoe sales alone, I can't even tell you how much the DC came out of that era. I mean, DC was a massive skateboard shoe company. I mean, we had music coming up with Blink and punk rock and all these things. We had surf brands coming up at this time, Hurley and Arnett. We had DC coming up through skate. Snow, Burton was just blowing up. I mean, dude, it was just like everything was coming up together.
Okay. And after Dude Ranch, we arrive at Enemy of the States, you know? I mean, that's...
What's that?
After this album, I mean, we are...
After Dude Ranch.
Dude Ranch,
Dude.
Yeah, there's the explosion of Blink-182 with Enemy of the State.
Okay, so let me walk that bridge to getting to Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
So, Dude Ranch, we put out the single, Damn It. We signed to MCA Records. And I do want to say one thing. This is cool for the Blink fans out there. We had options. Blink was getting hot. They were signed to Cargo Records in San Diego. I placed them perfectly all around the world in this scene. None of the other bands, none of them, dude, were coming up through the scene like the way I had this band placed. Now, Pennywise, Bad Religion, NOFX did, yes. But they were there was a thing at that time of not selling out. None of the punk bands, with the exception of Green Day, left Lookout and went to Warner. I believe it was Warner Brothers. No one else had done it yet, really. So it was kind of a weird time. Bad Religion was sniffing around to go to Columbia or Atlantic, and they did. They left Epitaph. Offspring left Epitaph to go to, I think it was Columbia. Some of the bands were starting to do it. So when Blink was coming up, we had Interscope looking at us, Epitaph, and I think Brett, I don't know if he really even wanted to sign us. And we had MCA. Okay, MCA had the nickname of Music Cemetery of America.
Okay, I didn't know.
Okay, it's a true fact. So MCA looked to be the worst option. The best option was Epitaph. Why? It was the most obvious. Bad Religion, Offspring, Pennywise, boom, all these bands. Interscope was like, they were Interscope. They had I think like a lot of the hip hop stuff, you know, with Dr. Dre and you know, they were famous through Death Row. You know what I mean? So they had a name. And Tom Wally was the head of the president. He really wanted to sign us because he saw Warner blowing up Green Day. So he's like, dude, we need our Green Day. Punk rock was flourishing at this time. It was hot. It was the gold rush. And then here's MCA. Their offices seemed kind of dorky. Everything seemed kind of stale. Why would we go to MCA Records? And I'll tell you why. I was a huge Go-Go's fan. Still to this day. I love the Police. Okay. I grew up in the 80s, dude. The president of MCA Records started IRS Records, which signed the Police, the Go-Go, all that stuff. He knew that stuff. I said, you're my guy. That was where I wanted Blink to go. I wanted Jay Boberg, the president. If we would have went to Epitaph, dude, we would have been 10th in line under all these other bands. If we went to Interscope, we might have done well. But I just didn't see, I mean, Tom Wally was very cool, very nice president, awesome. But Jay Boberg, dude, he started IRS Records. That was a big deal in the 80s. The Police were gnarly, dude. They were a sick three-piece. This guy knows how to break three-piece bands. I wanted him. We went there. They identified. We recorded Dude Ranch. They loved all my surf stuff. They picked Damn It. They spent all their money to work it at radio. And then one day I get a call from my bro, Paul Gomez, who's marketing at Billabong. He's like, dude, you're not going to believe what I just heard on the radio. I just heard Blink-182 on K-Rock's Furious 5 at 9. You don't get on Furious 5 at 9 unless you got some shit going on. Fast forward, we make a video. MTV premieres our video. Dude, I was the popcorn guy in the video. I was the good luck.
I know.
You put me in videos, they tend to do well. No, it's a great song. Mark and Tom wrote a brilliant song. The video went off. All their outfits were outfitted by Billabong. The sunglasses that Mark flings off his head in the video were Arnett. Alyssa Milano, the famous actress in the video, was wearing Arnett's. Dude, I was seeding everything I could to build the show the world that this band came from the surf scene and the surf skate snow scene. That's why we dressed them in those clothes, because it was really important. We weren't Green Day. We weren't from Berkeley. We weren't the Offspring from Huntington. We were Blink from anywhere there's a beach, because we had already seeded it everywhere. That went off. Josie went off. We started getting crazy tour offers. Our songs were blowing up on the charts. I ended up leaving Arnett. I worked at Reef Sandals, their famous world company. I did the same thing with Blink there at Reef. But then my job at Reef, the guy, I remember the marketing director was like, hey, dude, we need to talk to you. You either need to quit doing this Blink stuff or focus on Reef, and I looked at the guy like, dude, you're clueless, bro. I go, I do the Reef stuff because it's fun and I love surfing and I can hang out with Timmy Curran and Rob Machado and all my boys. Later, dude, I made just as much money that I make from you an entire year. I just made in like 3 weeks. So peace, goodbye. The guy was a dork. The guy who was my boss, he was such a dork. And I left. I focused on Blink solely. We went in the studio. They recorded Enema of the State. And it just went off. It just went off. Tom wrote a song called, All the Small Things.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, here we go into the late 90s. We go into the late 90s. Blink is now blowing up. We're getting tour offers from massive promoters to just buy our whole entire tour around America. And yeah, dude, Blink started just going off, and Travis came into the mix. And Scott had personal issues, and I don't know, it kind of haunted him, and he unfortunately was ushered out, and Travis was ushered in, and then the new era, started.
Yeah, and I have a question. I mean, Blink exploded with All the Small Things and What's My Age Again. I mean, those two songs make them extremely famous worldwide. And
yeah,
the video What's My Age Again still today is something extremely famous. Everybody knows this video, okay, of them running naked.
Yeah.
But how was born the idea? I mean, who had the idea of them running naked? And
that was Marco Siega. Being with a major labels had different departments. They have a radio department. So you get this awesome all-star radio department that knows everybody in radio. And then they have video director department. And there was a guy there named Tim, and he knew all these cool directors. And he picked Marco Siega to write that treatment. And everyone's like, yeah, it was right up our alley. And we did, and we filmed that in Hollywood. Pretty nuts. And it was really cool. That's when Travis came in, and it was really fun, you know, like we got access because we had success. We laid down a foundation. We were successful with it. The guys worked so hard. They toured like crazy, man. They toured and toured. They sacrificed, dude. You know, a lot of people don't understand that. Like when I'm just moving here, the sun is cooking me. A lot of people don't understand that, like, to give it your all, to be in a band like Blink-182 in the early years, like, you didn't have a normal life. Your life, you wake up, you don't even know what city you're in. I remember, I'm like, gosh, if I could just get Blink to make $500 a night, we can be profitable. And then it just, you write a really good song. You have people that believe in you. You have awesome band members that see the vision of your manager. They see the vision of each band as bandmates. They see the vision as the label. We all were we got it, and we worked as a unit and created it and maintained it and went everywhere. And next thing you know, I'm flying. Hey, Rick, I need to fly you to England. I'm like, what? Like, yeah. Can you leave tomorrow night? They're first class. They'll have a driver waiting for you. I'm like, wait, what? Just like craziest things, man. Like, because the rest of the world saw it. And luckily we had played in Europe, and we had played in Australia, and we had done all these seedings. And next thing you know, Germany has to have it in Portugal and Spain and Italy. And, like, it was just so cool, man. And like, so appreciative and so grateful that I was able to be a part of all this and watch Blink grow and to hundreds of thousands of fans all around the world. I mean, I remember we flew into Mexico City one time, and I landed. The band went on a private jet, and I flew with my buddies, and we landed in Mexico City, and there's people holding up Rick DeVoe signs in Mexico City. And they mobbed me in the terminal. This is pre 9/11. I'm like, this is so weird. This is weird. I mean, that's what it got to. I saw that too as a manager. We did the David Letterman show. And as we were leaving David Letterman in New York City, Mark Hoppus like, oh my gosh, look out the window. And there were girls holding "We Love Rick DeVoe" signs. I mean, dude, that's weird. That's not normal. Okay. I mean, it's just funny. It's funny. And I was stoked. I mean, I was able to do some fun things with it. I made the documentary, the Urethra Chronicles. Yeah. MCA funded it. We had money, like, do whatever you want. So I made the video with Taylor Steele's crew. and I produced it, and they shot it, and I filmed a lot of it because I had access. Yeah, dude, it was like surreal. It was just so cool. And I'm very grateful for Tom, Mark, and Travis, and Scott, and Rick Bondi, our agent, and Daryl Eaton, who took over at CAA, and in MCA Records, and all the people all over the world that helped this band. I mean, it was not just one person. I mean, there were so many, Liza Birmingham in Australia, and Mike Dudney and in the UK. And I mean, we had so many friends. We made all these great connections, dude. It was just like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was really, really cool.
And is there a moment when you realized that Blink-182 became extremely famous? Like a precious moment, say, wow, what we're doing.
Yeah, dude. I remember Chicago. That was nuts. We sold out 28,000 seat venue. Wow. Okay. I went to the it was called the World Amphitheater, and it was just this big stage with this huge field that just went to the end of the world, right? And I went all the way to the very top during Blink's set. And I think I just sat there with a beer or something. I was just like, how did I get here? How did I get here? And I'd have flashbacks of going back to that show I did in my high school, or meeting Tom for the first time, or playing to 13 people in New York City, opening for Fear, and all 13 people showed up. They came to see us and left, and Fear played to nobody. It was heavy, dude. It was like, how did I get to this point? And I just felt so blessed. You know, I don't know. All I can tell people out there is, you know, follow your passions. Your passions will lead you. Be cool. Don't burn people. Don't punch people, give them hugs. Don't flip people off, give them shakas. You treat people with respect, and then good things will happen to you. You know, I always try to treat the fans like I just wanted to talk to every fan, because I was just like, thank you. Thank you, kid in Bologna, Spain. Thank you, kid in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thank you, kid in Montreal, Canada. Thank you, kid on the North Shore of Oahu, Hawaii, and Sydney. And later on with Angels and Airwaves and stuff, Jakarta, Bali, Singapore. I mean, dude, it's just like, it's a big world, but it's a small world. And we all related as fans of Blink-182. we related, you know, it was just so cool, man. I'm speechless that I'm sitting here in Mexico, you know, today, because I worked hard, and I don't know. So just stay true to your passions. It's the best thing I can say.
That's true. That's what I'm trying to do. So
you're doing a good job.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask you something else.
Yeah.
In his biography, Travis says that they were trying something more technical and darker after Enema of the States. And
Yes.
you advised them to put some Blink-182 songs. And after a brief time, they wrote the Rock Show and First Date. Tell me if I'm right. If you can tell us, I mean, something more about what happened with Rock Show and First Date. I mean,
that's interesting. That's interesting. Not too many people know that. So, yeah, dude, emo was taking over. Jimmy World, Saves the Day. Emo bands were popular. Blink was Tom. They really liked that. They liked it. They were attracted. The music was good. Postal Service, like there was just this scene that was happening. We started taking these bands on tour with us. We're coming off Cheshire Cat, Dude Ranch, Enema of the State. Our shows, we have huge slam pits. We've got girls throwing bras up, having a good time, raging shows. And they played me a bunch of demos. Now, I don't normally get involved in the music side of things, but they played me all the demos and like, dude, listen to this music. Oh, what do you think? And I was just like, wait, what is this? What is this? This doesn't sound like Blink to me. This is tripping me out. I go, this is sad, Blink. What is this sad? This isn't you. I didn't like it. And I was like, I don't think it's good. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you guys are doing. But I don't remember the conversation. I just remembered in my brain, they were writing a record that they were basing off of their influences at the time. And they weren't staying the course of the direction that they had already paved the way for. I mean, they were up there with Green Day, dude. And they wrote an emo record. And I didn't like it. And I told them I didn't like it. I was scared of it. And they listened. Mark went back and wrote a song called Rock Show. He said he wrote it in 5 minutes. And Tom wrote a song called First Date. I think that was it. And
Huge success, of course.
huge success. So yeah, so I'm happy they wrote those songs. I think they're happy. First Date was like one of the funniest videos of all time. The Rock Show was crazy. This was the time, this was now past the Hurley movement. Billabong, Bob Hurley left Billabong, Paul Gomez left Billabong and started Hurley. 1999, Blink was fully endorsed by Hurley. They helped launch the brand. Bob Hurley sent us generous thank you gifts. It's very kind. But right around the Enema of the State era, Mark and Tom and Travis decided to start their own brands. They started a brand called Atticus, Macbeth, Famous Stars and Straps, and the Rock Show video had all their clothes in it. It was the launch of their brands. So it was really fun to watch these young guys start with Billabong and Arnett and Reef, the companies, came up with the surf industry. They got, and then left Billabong, went with Bob Hurley to start Hurley. And then at the MTV VMA Awards for all the small things, they were all wearing Hurley on the 1999 VMA Awards. It was really cool. Still securing their spot in the surf, skate, snow scene, their identity. They're blowing up. Green Day now is not the only one at the top. There's a new sheriff in town called Blink-182. It's really cool, dude. And we came from the surf, skate, snow scene. Green Day came from the punk rock scene, hardcore, but we were a pop punk rock band fueled by surfing. It was just really, it was a great way, great story. Then the boys started their own brands and start getting married, starting families. And there's a big transition that's happening now, you know. They're massive rock stars, dude, at this point. Massive. I mean, it was insane. We went from driving around in Tom's little red pickup Nissan truck with all the surf bros and vans and cruising around, to them buying their own van, to renting their first like bus that was called the Eagle, which was like the worst buses you can get at the time. Worked their way up to Prevost buses, worked their way up to private jets, police escorts. I mean, it just was like, just like over a span of like four years. And, you know, every major radio station asking us to play their radio shows, festivals in Europe, festivals in Australia, Big Day Out, Reading, Leeds, Pupil Pop, Lowland, like everything, every show. We were always asked to headline. We would headline our own tours. I mean, Enema of the State was a massive record. Massive, massive record. But it's time to make a new record. And, you know, then they made Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. And then that was the one with First Date. That was First Date and Rock Show. And then the next record was self-titled, which took them to a whole nother level of creation and songwriting, working with Jerry Finn, and Travis really coming into his own. And yeah, man, it was quite an amazing process watching that record get made as well.
Okay, and I have a question. how do you see the new generation of punk rock singers? I mean, like in the last 3 or 4 years, I think there's a rising of new singers of punk rock music, like I don't know, Machine Gun Kelly, Young Blood, and all of them. How do you see that this new generation of singers?
I think it's super cool. I mean, being into punk rock and mod music, you know, hold on a second. Hold on, someone just tried to call me. Being into punk rock and mod music, you know, they always stood for something and doing things their own way. And I mean, I haven't seen Machine Gun Kelly play. I know Travis is very tuned in with those guys. And I mean, from what I've seen, he seems like he's an amazing dude and he's killing it. And I'm stoked. I don't think it's ever going to end. People are just going to translate it. They're going to, you know, play guitar and do it the way they want and just do it the way they want. I mean, we did what we wanted to do. We weren't rude or mean or, you know, we were our era, and this new era is coming in, and I back it. It's fun. And to be honest with you, I think it's going to rejuvenate a lot of these like Newfound Glory and in some of these like good, you know, Good Charlotte, Simple Plan and bands like that. It's just, it's really cool. I know Newfound Glory just had a great tour recently, and it was packed. And so it's just going to keep going. It always will. It always will. And it just might get a little more modernized each time, but you know, I don't know. It just, I'm stoked on it. It's cool.
And I mean, I know today you're still managing your bands like the Aquadolls, the Bump Ups, and other bands. And I'd like to ask you what you're doing today and what's the difference work as a manager 20 years ago and now with social media and that kind of stuff. Is it the same job for you, or you see differences or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so the bands I manage today are all young bands. I don't have any bands that are veterans. I manage the Aquadolls, 3-piece girl band. I manage Sitting on Stacy, 3-piece band from Thousand Oaks, California. Aquadolls are from Huntington Beach, California. I manage the Bomb Pops, 4-piece band from Los Angeles, originally from Carlsbad, punk rock band. They're on Fat Records. Aquadolls are on NC Records, which is owned and ran by Pat Magdarella, who managed Green Day for 22 years. And day-to-day guy there is Chris Georgian, who worked for me for 15 years.
Okay.
They get punk. Sitting on Stacy is a new band that I'm working with, and they're signed to Republic. And Republic's a very cool label, major label. I happen to know the presidents and all those guys because I took meetings with them with Blink-182, and I went over well with those guys. They liked me. So now they're working my new band, Sitting on Stacy. All my bands are working some way, shape, or form are working with Fat Mike. Yep. I mean, I'm working with Fat Mike, who I worked with back in the 90s and in 2000s, and I've kept these connections. Fat Mike's producing Sitting on Stacy for me. He produced the Aquadolls for me. The Aquadolls just put out a Christmas song. They covered the Waitress's song called Xmas Wrapping. We got El Jefe to play horns on it. Angelo Moore from Fishbone played saxophone. I mean, do you see how these? It's so cool.
Yeah.
That I'm able to work with people that I worked with way back in the day, still to this day. Bomb Pops are signed to Fat Records. Fat Mike. So it's really cool. My Bomb Pops are going on tour next month with Dropkick Murphys. The Aquadolls and Sitting on Stacy are going on tour together, co-headline tour in the States starting in March. My daughter's tour managing the Aquadolls Sitting on Stacy tour.
Okay.
it's really cool, dude. I'm able to hand down my expertise and my experiences and teach these bands things. But I will say what Bob Hurley taught me, marketing drives sales. So you got to promote. You got to market, you got to market. Nothing has changed in that sense from 94, 99, 2004 to here in 2022. Okay. Now, maybe the way music is getting distributed through TikTok and, you know, Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. Yeah, that's something that exists. It's just a marketing tool. Radio stations are kind of not as important like they used to be. MTV's not even in like what it was anymore. It's just the way to market things has changed a little bit electronically, but going out and playing shows, showing up and talking to the kids and shaking hands with the promoters, reps, being super cool to the sound guy in the club, go into a club, leave it the way you found it. Don't trash the club. Make sure you have good sound. Look every fan in the eye. None of that has changed, dude. None of it's changed in that sense. Good old fashioned hard work. It's hard to tour. Some of these artists, when we were playing Lollapalooza this summer with the Aqua Dolls, I was talking to the promoter rep with C3, who running Lollapalooza, and I go, hey, I feel stupid here. I'm looking at your lineup, and 70% of these people I have never heard of in my life. And now I'm feeling like I'm getting old and this is weird. And they're like, oh yeah, that's because those bands didn't exist 2 years ago. Those are COVID TikTok bands that are blowing up. And I'm like, what? COVID TikTok bands? I'm like, okay, man. And you know, I don't know. That one got me. That one got me, you know. I don't know. I like carrying my band's guitar cases for them. I like writing out set lists. I like having band meetings before the show. I like having band meetings after the show, what we could have done better, what we, you know, what we need for the next one. And that's what I'm teaching my bands today. I'll leave the TikToking and the boomerangs and all that stuff to the band members, which they're all know how to do and everything. But I'm still a promoter of good old fashioned, get out there, tour, earn your stripes, and connect with fans eye to eye, sonically. That's me.
Yeah, thank you. And you just mentioned Chris Georgian. Okay, and I hear that
he's from Greece, by the way. He's a fellow European.
Okay, we are close now.
Yes, he's from Kefalonia.
Okay, and he said, I heard an interview with him, and he said that you mentored him. I mean, that you were his mentor when he started working with Blink-182. And are you mentoring someone today, or?
Yes, I mentor my daughter.
Yep.
I mentor this another girl. Her name's Ireland Wilson. She's gone on multiple tours. She started working with us with Aqua Dolls she's at 15 years old. She's gone around the country a couple times with us, and the Bomb Pops asked her to do merch on the Dropkick Murphys tour, which is almost all sold out. She's working her way up. We all put in free time. We all did. We all worked for these bands for free for a while. It was hard, you know, man, like starting over. I mean, I got back in the van. I went from buses and private jets to I'm driving the van that smells like Taco Bell. Okay.
Okay.
So you got to keep it real, and you gotta start from somewhere. And I started with the Aqua Dolls with my daughter JC and Ireland to try to empower females to get out there and be an all-girl crew. And so yeah, I mentor people. those two in particular. I have certain bands, Sky Devin from this band, Chicago Until Morning, and a couple other bands. Like, I help them. Anytime I can give back, like I will. And I like talking and helping people because I had mentors myself. My mentor was the late, great, he just passed away, Ted Gardner. He managed Jane's Addiction and Porno for Pyros. Australian dude, would always take my call. That was a big deal. And he just passed away last week, and I was really sad to hear that. Kevin Lyman, Andy Summers, you know, Bob Hurley's, Paul Gomez's, these guys, they were my mentors. You have to give back. You have to give back. If you don't, that's cold and you're selfish. So yes, I'm working very hard. I'm nurturing some young women right now that are going to kill it in this business.
Okay, and that's nice. And are there any band you would have liked to work with and it didn't happen during your career?
Oh, any bands that I would have liked to have worked with? I got to work with my favorite band in my life was Pennywise. I think, I mean, Pat managed Green Day. I really loved Billy Joe's style. I wasn't jealous of Pat. I was envious. You know, I'm like, dude, that's really cool. We were fellow managers of a big band. I think I mean, Jim Gierno managed No Doubt. I was so into mod and ska music, and No Doubt was a ska band. So, and I promoted No Doubt. I would have liked to have worked with No Doubt early on, and I think I would have maybe tried to keep that band together and maybe convince Gwen. But we'll never know at this point. You know, I don't know, the Go-Go's. I would today, if they called up, I would manage the Go-Go's to this very day. They're making great music. Some bands, I don't know. I like a lot of bands, but those are bands that I really liked, and I would have loved to work with those bands. But I did as a promoter in a lot of cases, so it was kind of cool.
Is there any of your band will come to Europe to play?
Yes, the Bomb Pops are coming to Europe on the Punk and Drublic Festival.
Okay, it will be even in Milan.
In Milan, correct?
Yes.
Yep, and I'm putting you on the guest list.
I wait for it.
Yeah.
Rick, I mean, I just can't thank you. I mean, you know how much I wanted to do this conversation with you.
I know, dude. I know.
I didn't stop writing, and I really appreciated that you accepted. I mean, really, I mean, 20 years ago, I wasn't yet a teenager. I was listening Blink-182 all day long, and today having this conversation with you is something huge for me.
Well,
you can't imagine how happy I am.
I appreciate that. That's really cool. And I feel honored that you're having me talk about this stuff that was so long ago. I don't do a ton of interviews for things. I don't know what else to say. Have a great New Year. Happy New Year, and thank you for having me on.
Happy New Year too, and thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.